Hey guys, Matt here with episode 49 of the Chocolate Croissants podcast. I hope everyone is doing fantastic this week. Happy Monday. I hope the rest of the week goes great for you. So this episode is brought to you by our good friends at Nata Tattoo. They are a certified, all-natural, all-vegan, and all-organic tattoo care brand. Their renowned tattoo care kit covers all steps from how to treat and protect your fresh tattoos to how to keep them healthy and looking great even when they're fully healed. We actually met these guys down at the Health Expo East, which was taking place in Baltimore, our hometown, a few months back. And currently, right now, today, they're on the West Coast at the Expo West, meeting hopefully a lot of good people there as well. They really stood out to us because they are a family-owned company. We met the owner, Christy, who is the mom of all moms. She is the matriarch of all matriarchs who created the brand with her children in mind. She wanted to create products that was going to be that were going to be really healthy for her kids' sensitive skin. So she started with soaps and lotions and things like that, and then eventually graduated to tattoo care. Because her kids started getting older, they started getting tattoos, and with sensitive skin, she wanted to make sure that she was protecting them. So in true mom form, she went above and beyond and created Nata Tattoo. The lovely folks over at Nata Tattoo have also provided us with a discount code for all of you listeners out there if you're interested in any of their moisturizers, products, tattoo care stuff, or if you even are interested in getting the whole tattoo care kit. You can get everything on their site right now for 25% off if you use the code in all caps, all one word, chocolate 25. That's CHOCOLATE and the numbers 25, all caps again, at natatattoo.com. That's NAT-A-TAT-2, the number 2.com. And again, use the code chocolate 25 at checkout. So now on to episode 49. Episode 49 is a special one for me because it features a guest who I have seen grow from a kind of, scared, anxious kid, sorry, Joe, I hope you don't take it the wrong way, into an extremely motivated, extremely well-rounded, extremely well-educated, and bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young man who is now very, very impressive and who I actually am working with on a number of different projects, including this podcast. Our guest this week is my former student. Maybe he might consider himself my student still, but I call him a former student because now he is a very good friend. And as I said, someone who works with me quite often. His name is Joe Hamilton. He is a nice young British lad from Bath, England. And Joe, again, as I said, has impressed me over the years. We first met in Bristol in the United Kingdom. He came out to one of my band's shows for a drum lesson, and we kind of kicked off our relationship then as teacher-student, and then we worked together for many years over video chat with my company Band Happy. I taught him drum lessons, and did coaching with him back and forth. And then over time, he just sort of started getting more involved with other projects that I was working on. So he has helped out with Get Good Drums, not only with some of the stuff online, but specifically, literally driving me and Nolly and our gear back and forth from studio to studio and studio to home. He has showed up for sessions and helped to get the drums set up, to get the drums tuned and sounding good. He's done everything. And now, as I said, he's working on a number of different projects. He's editing video for us over at the Punk Rock MBA. He is doing all of the mixing and sound and actually wrote the music for the Chocolate Croissant podcast intro and outro. He is a talented musician. He is working now himself as a producer with a bunch of different bands and just is really expanding his abilities, spreading his wings, and figuring out what kind of professional he's going to be. But man, as I said, I am really impressed with Joe because he is just battling and overcoming so much in his life, and I've watched him do it year after year. And where he is now is just such a far place from where he was when we first met. So, Joe, I know you're listening to this because you're going to edit this intro here. So, kudos to you, my man. I have nothing but warm thoughts, warm feelings for you at all times, and I am very proud that we were able to get you on the podcast this week. I think that the conversation we had was extremely beneficial, not only to Jordan and Justin to get to know you better, but our listeners, those of you listening right now, I really hope that you take a lot away from this episode, because again, Joe is just like any one of us. You know, he had his own doubts, own fears, own problems, and this kid has tackled them head on. And again, I've watched him overcome one thing after the other to become quite a, as I said, well-rounded individual, someone who I really respect and someone who I'm very proud to call a friend. So Joe, this one's for you. This one is you. And for all of you listeners out there, I really hope you enjoy episode 49. As a very, very last thing I want to mention, I am using Rode microphones. I'm using the NT-USB. Rode Microphones has provided all of the equipment that we could ever need to bring this podcast to you. They've given us all sorts of microphones. They've given us all sorts of support. So if you are familiar with Rode or not familiar with Rode, and you're doing any kind of recording, whether it's on your phone, whether it's in a studio, whether it's like this for a podcast, check out rodemic.com. It's RODEMIC.com. You will hear Joe mention this again in the outro of this episode. It's actually a really good outro, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. I know I've been rambling and singing Joe's praises, but I really just can't say enough about this kid. Here you go, guys. Episode 49. Enjoy the chocolate croissants. See ya. Cool. All right. What episode is this?
49.
Joe knows.
49.
I'm pissed you didn't do me for 50, man.
It's just a number.
It's not. It's half of 100.
You know, technically though, this might actually be 50 technically, because the one with Jeff Holcomb was a separate episode that didn't have a number to it.
The satellite one.
So technically,
and your introduction.
Right.
Well, yeah. So
there are 50 audio tracks uploaded currently on Podbean. So this is 51. If you go off.
But that doesn't make sense, because there's the intro and then the satellite episode.
Right. So the intro is not an episode. The intro is just an intro.
No, but it was something that was.
So if you take out the intro and the satellite, this is 49.
No, but the satellite counts because it's a full-length episode that was like 2 hours long.
So then this is 48, or this is now 49.
No, this is 50.
Let's just start over.
Okay.
It's fine. We'll cut all this.
Joe looks confused.
No, I'm saying start over the podcast.
Oh, no. All right.
Number one.
We're almost at a year. It's pretty cool. Joe, before we got on the podcast, you said you had some nerves.
Yes.
What's that about?
Well, mainly because I've never done a podcast in my life, so that's new. And I consider myself a quiet person. I'm not the most talkative guy. I'm generally pretty introverted. Not pretty, very. So talking and like creating fluid conversation is something I've had to work on a lot recently, because I've become more sort of aware of it.
How did you become aware of it, and then what things have you done to work on it?
So I was always kind of aware of it, but sort of I've just been in more situations recently where I've been with people I don't know, or more social situations where it's appropriate to make small talk or some shit like that, and I've noticed that I just keep pulling blanks, and then it's awkward. So I've been like, well, that's something I want to work on. So it's something I've just sort of tried to become more aware of, which has helped in itself, because then I'm like, I can see or recognize when it happens and then try and do something about it. I talk a lot about it to my fiance Nat, because she often gets not annoyed, but she's like, so do you want to try and converse with me right now? I'm like, yeah, let's try. So
as
really
like,
helpful.
do you do that as practice?
Well, I mean,
or just in general, like she's actually saying, hey, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, but I find that's awful, because I talk best when I'm not prompted into having a conversation. So when she says, hey, let's talk, then I'll be like, and yeah, freeze.
Yeah, I get that.
But catch me unaware, and I'll babble.
Well, right. You and I have always had good conversations. They started. Well, when we first met, we just determined that we met in January 2011 in person for the first time.
Yeah.
We hadn't done anything online prior to that. That was actually our first interaction.
Yeah, I saw you were coming to Bristol. I saw you offering lessons, so I hit you up, and we organized it.
Right. So that was the first time I met you. You came backstage. We sat down, I remember, in the dressing room.
Yep.
Or in the backstage room.
With Sam Gates.
With Sam Gates. Your hair was quite different at that point.
Correct.
How old were you then, Joe?
So that was 2011. So that's 7 years ago. So
15?
what's 24 minus 7?
17?
You were 16, 17.
16.
Were you nervous for that interaction?
Hugely. Yeah.
I remember that.
How'd it go?
Well, fine once it started happening, but it was the lead up to it.
So what happened?
In the lead up?
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember. So I was 16, 17. So I had a couple years prior to that, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And it was around that time, it was really bad about going into places I didn't know well, or even just anywhere like away from home, which was like my safe place in inverted commas. So I was, for one reason or another, like the thoughts I was having at the time was I was worried I would have a panic attack or like suddenly feel ill and shit myself, or just need to get out for whatever reason. Well, I actually like messaged you about it before we met, explaining that.
Yeah, I remember that.
You put my mind to ease somewhat. You did the most you could in that situation.
I tried, but I knew going into it that you were dealing with the trepidation of the situation. But you had explained to me too that it wasn't just about our interaction. It was about going to the show. I mean, at that point, I don't know if it's as extreme to say or to categorize you as agoraphobic, because I don't think you were that bad. But there was a degree. I was
diagnosed with that.
You were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just remember that being. I remember knowing that. Remember you told me that beforehand.
Yeah.
And I remember knowing that it was a huge step for you to be at the venue, to be around other people like that, for us to communicate. And then I remember you being concerned about like where you would watch the show from, like what part of the room. You didn't want to get caught up in the pit and like get consumed by people. Yeah. So if I recall, you watched from like the back.
No, I was at the barrier in the end.
You were?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because by that point, I'd got used to the like surroundings. I had my two friends with me at that point because obviously they didn't come with me to the lesson, but I met them afterwards. So like I was kind of in the groove of it then. So once I'd got like acclimatized, I was okay. And especially when the music starts going, you lose yourself in that.
Right.
And then I was fine.
Was this one of your first concert experiences, or had you gone to many concerts in the past?
I'd gone to many, but it was, I think, the first one since my anxiety got super bad. Yeah, it was like around a couple of years prior to that, I think, that I got super bad anxiety. But I'd been to tons of shows before that.
Did you try to draw on the prior past experience of going to those shows to kind of put yourself at ease of like, hey, it's just another show, this is what I love, I enjoy music?
I think I wasn't in a place where that would have worked yet. I was kind of beyond that. Because, yeah, I mean, I hadn't got to the point where logic was working quite yet, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I remember that show being a big deal for you? Not because of the band or like the show itself. I just mean that experience for you of having the interaction with me, having it go well, being at the show, having that go well. That kind of shook you in a positive way to kind of get inspired to get out of that shell. And then I remember when I came back from that tour, that's when you and I really started working together and communicating. I mean, we've done, I don't even know how many online lessons in the past through Band Happy. I mean, how many did we do? 20, 30?
Loads,
maybe?
I don't know. I like helped beta test Band Happy, didn't I?
You did. Yeah. You were like one of the first people to see the platform. Yeah, which is so cool because, you know, unbeknownst to us, we're still doing that same thing together. Like, you've beta tested GGD. You've beta tested, like, you've been involved in a lot of projects that I've been working on now from all the way back since Band Happy. I mean, like, it's been a while that you and I have been working together in multiple capacities of either, you know, at first me being in the teacher role, you being in the student role, then me coming to you and looking for your assistance and your help in varying degrees on different projects, and then just, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but I've said this to you privately, I've said this to you publicly, like, seeing your growth, your projection, and the abilities that you've developed over the years since we first met and how good you are at so many things has been so rewarding to see, coming from where you were before. You know, like, you were scared to get out of your house. You were scared to interact with a lot of people. I remember the first time that you came to the studio, or even before that, the first time you hung out with me and Nolly at Nolly's house, or we came over your place to jam. And it was like such a, I remember you being like so concerned about like how to conduct yourself, whether you should talk, whether you should shut up. And we just
I'm still like that. But
I know you
better
are.
at hiding it.
I know you overthink those situations, but it seems to me, at least from the outside perspective, that you've overcome all of that stuff. Because now when we are in those situations, I truly believe that I see Joe for Joe. Like, I see you being yourself. You and I have spent enough time together that you've let your guard down in front of me, that you've shown me your vulnerable truth. And now I don't really see you holding back, at least in the most recent years of us spending time together and working together. So, I mean, whatever you're doing, it's a huge thing to be happy about. At least you should be happy about it, I think.
I am. I was talking to my therapist about this on Tuesday. It's because I don't know. It's been like a gradual road to like improvement or recovery or whatever, but it's also happened extremely quickly. Like, it's been gradual, and then in the last like 3 years, it's kind of skyrocketed. To the point where I kind of feel like a fraud talking about like when I was like really bad and when I was like really depressed and anxious, because I'm in like such a better place now. It's hard to remember what it was like, so it kind of feels like I'm making it up, which sounds weird, but it's like it's hard to position myself back in that place, so it feels foreign to me now, which is amazing. It's a telltale sign of improvement.
Joe, I was going to go one way with this conversation, but since you brought up the therapy, I'm curious. So the type of, I guess, theoretical orientation that your therapists use, do you know if is part of your process kind of gaining insight into why you felt depressed or anxious, and then making meaning of that helps you move forward? Or have you noticed that your therapy has been more about just working in the here and now and more future-oriented things and building a skill set and not really putting too much kind of effort into digging into your past and upbringing?
So, I would say both. At the start, because like when I first started going to therapy was when I had my anxiety, and at that point I was like not leaving the house. I was having like panic attacks frequently, and then I'd have episodes of like 24-hour panic attack. So it was like pretty gnarly. So at that point it was more about trying to treat the symptoms, not the cause.
Mm-hmm. Just to get to a baseline of functioning.
Yeah, it was kind of like crisis mode, as it were, and we were just trying to like find a way for me to keep going forward. It was really only when I started to see my current therapist, because I've seen 3 now, that I started addressing why this happens, as opposed to what to do when it happens. And I don't think that's really anything like a comment on the 2 therapists I've had in the past. It's more a comment of the mindset I was now in to be able to address that.
Do you feel like you're getting to the bottom of it?
Yeah. And I also, through doing that with sort of, also in understanding the cause, it's made me recognize, say if I'm starting to feel anxious about something, I can see it sooner and then think, okay, why is this happening? And it's probably about something completely unrelated. So I had a stag do, which is not what you call it. What do you call it?
A bachelor party.
I had a bachelor party last month. Mm-hmm. Sorry?
So explain what a stag is. Explain a stag.
Okay, so best friends getting married. I am his best man. Group of us go away on like one last, in inverted commas, piss up or whatever before he gets married.
Right.
So that's what it is, basically.
Right.
And I don't like to drink because it makes me feel like shit mentally and physically. So I try and not drink to excess. So prior to going on the stag do, I was worrying about that because it was going to be 2-3 nights in a row of drinking to excess, or whatever. So I was really kind of like 2 weeks before, I was in a pretty anxious state consistently. And I noticed I might not be actively being anxious about the stag do, but I would be overthinking other things going on, whether that be work or relationships or social interactions. I noticed my anxiety around those things were far worse because I was in this general anxious state because of the stag do. And because I now understand that and can see that for what it is, it makes me be able to rationalize my anxieties around all the other things, because I'm like, okay, I know what's going on. I'm just anxious about the stag do, which is it's just fair enough, I guess. That's like a real anxiety, stress or whatever. Which means that's why I'm just freaking out about this other stuff. So it's probably okay.
Did you think to maybe address the variable that was making you so anxious of this potential moment you would end up in where you would have to drink versus, going through the process of overwhelming yourself with all this and causing anxiety? You could, did you think to maybe try to mitigate or eradicate it by having the conversation with your mates of like, hey, I don't love drinking because, and so I may not partake as heavy as everybody else, just, so you guys are aware. Did you have that conversation?
Yes. Yeah, I did. I kept forgetting to do it, but I did it to my best friend who's the one getting married, and he was like, dude, I totally understand. If you start feeling bad, let me know. Like, I'm here for you. If you don't want to drink, don't bother. It's no biggie. And that was like a huge help.
I think sorry to cut you off, man. I think a good takeaway is, like, whenever we're feeling something, just expressing it is almost like half the battle.
Yeah.
Whether it's with a friend or a family member, or even like in our Facebook group. I think sometimes just to get it out of your head, then you can actually deal with it and see it for what it is, instead of it kind of being this nagging thing that we just like drag around like dead weight.
Yeah. Well, it takes it out from like rebounding around your mind. It just like takes the lid off the bottle and lets it out, and then you can, as you say, see it for what it is and digest it, and then talk about it with people and work through it and rationalize it and then move on.
Why do you think it took you so long to actually bring this up to your best friend? And is this something, being one of your best friends, that he was kind of aware of ahead of time, or was it something that he was like, oh, I didn't really realize that, but of course, do you?
Why did it take me so long?
Was it just the normal anxiety of like, oh, I don't want to do this, I'm not sure how he'll respond? Or is it just something that you were busy and you just had forgotten about it, and every time it came up, you're like, oh shit, I need to do that?
Yeah, much the latter. Because I knew how he'd respond, because he's a great guy and, he understands mental health. And he knows that I have anxiety and whatnot. So I knew he'd be fine, like he'd be super supportive, but as you say, like work and then procrastination and forgetting.
I know this is gonna like kind of make us bounce around, but I wanted to get in my original question before we dug into more of the therapy and mental health. So, Joe, you and Matt were kind of talking about how you first met, and then since then the work and collaboration that you guys have done together. I'm curious, Joe, when you went into that first interaction at the show, or the pre-show lesson with Matt, did you have any vision or even desire to develop a long-term relationship and potentially add value to him in certain ways?
I guess. Yeah, because at that point I didn't really have much exposure to the music industry. I was still in college, which is not the same as American college.
What's the difference? Because you were young, it seemed.
Yeah, so your college is my university, and my college is like the 2 years before that.
So like the end of our high school, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, the year before I would then go to university.
Okay, like around 17, 18 years old.
Right. So yeah. I didn't have any exposure to like the real music industry. So at that point I was much more kind of just it would be sick to get a drum lesson from this really sick drummer. But as we then followed up and had more lessons, that started to kind of creep into my mind, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of our sessions too ended up being about bigger picture topics. We talked about the music business and the things that I was experiencing, but we also talked a lot about mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when we were having lessons was at points when I was like at my worst. And I think you knew that. We kind of talked about that. Like some lessons I remember I was like just off. And
you were in a different relationship for part of that. You were living in a different location. You were going through, I think, a lot of social challenges,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you pulled yourself out of it even before we started really working together, So what was like the motivator there? Well, let me put it this way. Do you think that when you went from college, as you call it, to uni, that made a difference? Because that to me was a big turning point for you. It seemed that way, at least. You went from being really at home for the most part to then going to school in Bristol. You were still living at home, but you were around a lot more musicians, a lot more people. Weren't you working at a pub? Didn't you work at a pub at some point too?
No,
Am I thinking of Nolly?
I've no idea.
Okay. Oh.
Both British, so.
Those British guys. Anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was, if anything, it was just motivating and exciting to go to university to study music full time. Because at college, I did study music, but I had to also study other things. So it was really exciting to then do music full time around people who wanted to do music full time. So that was really exciting. It was also oddly frustrating because of my anxiety, I couldn't go and do all the social stuff. So I had a very limited experience, I feel. But at least I got into class and studied and did my exams, which was really exciting and was kind of, I always knew that I wanted to do music, but it sort of started to feel like it was starting to happen at that point, which was really motivating.
At that point, did you know what that meant, that you wanted to do music?
At which point, sorry?
I guess when you started university, but even like now, what at that point, what was the dream? What was the vision? What were you working towards? Or was it just this broader idea of, I just want to support myself doing something in music?
Yeah, that. When I was growing up, the dream was to be a drummer in a world famous band touring the world. And then when I got to college, I was like, maybe I need to start thinking, I realized that the current dream was to be able to afford life through music, so I didn't have to subsidize it with shit I didn't care about. And that's still very much my goal.
Would you say you're doing that right now?
Yes, just like end of last year, beginning of this year, I've just started to sort of reach that.
That's awesome, man. Well, good for you. It's more than most could say, especially at your age now. Could you just catch us up? What actually are you doing right now, day to day, to supplement your income as a musician?
So, main thing I do is I run my own recording studio, which is actually in the garage of my parents' house. So bands come in, I record them, work with them, mix and master their music. On top of that, I teach drums once a week, a full day a week, which basically pays for my food for the week, which is great. And then those are the two things I do, but on top of that, I'm sort of just working with people and on things which will lead to more contacts, more money, more experience, more portfolio.
It's smart, man. It seems like you play this long game in the sense of, even with this Chocolate Croissants podcast, we'll be very frank in that, we're not really giving you much of anything, for the effort that you've put into it. Talking about more monetarily.
Right.
But you've really put yourself into this position, whether it's this or other of Matt's projects, where if one of these things really starts to take off, you would be in the position to benefit the most, outside of the key people, doing it every single day.
Right. I've always had this sort of motto for myself, which is short-term sacrifice for long-term gain, and I don't really like the word sacrifice because it makes it sound like I hate what I'm doing or whatever, but it's like, if someone offers me an opportunity which will be unpaid to do something, but then it's working on a cool project I believe in or with people I think could be, I don't like the word useful because it makes it sound like I'm using them, but are people who know what they're doing that I respect, that know people that know what they're doing that I respect, like I'm going to do that because who knows what it'll lead to. If I don't do it, then I know that it will lead to nothing.
It's true. Yeah, and I've had many experiences doing similar things, but really the only sacrifice is just you're not getting money in return for said time or talent or energy. But beyond just the network, you could leverage the experience. You could leverage what you're adding to a resume or a portfolio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it's when I'm making decisions, because I do have to be very judicious about what I commit my time to. Money isn't always the factor of, is this worth doing? I have to kind of weigh all the benefits and the ways that me saying yes to a project could potentially pay out long term in different ways.
Sure, absolutely. And you guys have mentioned it loads, but just say yes and then work it out. I've done even the thing I've been helping you with, Matt, where you asked me if I'd ever used Premiere.
Yeah.
I hadn't in my life, but I was like, yeah. And then you sent me the stuff and I worked it out and I got it done.
Is this something we can talk about?
Yeah.
So are you for the first time, Matt, finding out that Joe didn't know what he was doing?
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm sure you don't care.
No, I don't care at all.
That's great.
And I'm almost not surprised, because I know that's your mentality, and I knew that you would be savvy enough to figure it out, even if you hadn't done it.
What is Premiere?
Yeah.
Okay, so Premiere is a video editing suite. It's video editing software, and it's the software that Finn uses to edit all of the videos that we put out for the Punk Rock MBA.
Oh, cool.
Neither Finn nor I at this point have been able to carve out enough time on our own to just do some of the editing that's required.
Right.
So
is that adding text and
videos
on top and bottom and whatnot? Or
yeah.
the photo on top and bottom.
So basically, I'll send Joe I'll like this. So we just filmed a video recently. Me and Finn we both recorded a full script, each of us.
Right.
The same exact thing. Finn sent it to me, and then I chopped it together. I made the fine cut where I edited together to where we're both speaking and doing this dialogue.
And you're using
one with the other. I'm just
Premiere
using
iMovie.
I'm using
well, we understand.
Yeah, I'm using iMovie to do that.
Right.
So then I asked Joe if he would be interested in taking on some work to basically help us make all of the social assets.
Okay. Right.
That would be used for promotion.
Right.
So what Joe's getting from me is the edited version of the video.
In the text?
No, not even the text. Because the text, once we write out the script,
it ad-libs a little bit.
It ad-libs a little bit.
Sure.
So we sent it to Joe and we said, okay, Joe, we need a YouTube version. We need a Facebook version that has hard subs. We need an Instagram version that has hard subs. We need
Twitter
Instagram story versions that have hard subs. And I think that's it, right? And like a thumbnail or two that Finn is going to make, and yada yada yada. So we did this with one of my videos at first. I said, Joe, here's what we can do. We don't have full budget to pay you right now, but if you like it and you're interested, we'll bargain by giving you access to the course if you're interested. By no means did I assume that you would be, but if you were, great. And then I prefaced all this by saying that, and if you like it and there is good work done and we continue to work together, there's absolutely going to be an opportunity as we continue to grow and bring in revenue where we're going to need to hire someone to do this stuff. And if you are interested, you would be that first person that we would ask. And that's exactly how I presented it. I think that's how I presented it to you.
100%.
And so
it would be stupid for me to say no to that.
Well, that's neither here nor there. But we needed the help, and the first video that Joe did, I would have no idea that he didn't know how to use Premiere.
Right.
And he did it in 2 days.
Yeah.
From when I sent you the video, you just got up and running and you did it. So whatever research you did, watching YouTube videos, I would gather, reading some articles.
Yeah.
It worked. because
actually had Premiere on one screen and Google on the other, and I was just going between the two.
but see, that's awesome.
So like what kind of learning curve is the program? Is it as complicated as, I think a lot of people talk about Logic just being a very sophisticated recording program. So like Matt and I and Jordan with this podcast have had to figure out more basic, maybe more elementary style applications like GarageBand and using Ecamm to record stuff, Skype. Matt and I use iMovie to cut up and put together some of these videos for the socials, but we get by with not a lot of knowledge and we just try to figure it out as we go. But what you're using Premiere, is that a high learning curve? Was it something where you really had to spend a lot of time to figure out the ins and outs of it, or did it kind of come naturally?
Well, I had to learn what I needed to know. I wasn't going to waste time learning how to add crazy video effects and CGI, because that wasn't what I needed to know.
Sure.
I just needed to know how to make something a certain resolution and to put text on something. I've used Photoshop a lot, and both were by Adobe, so I was like, there's going to be similarities, I can work this out. And there are kind of similar workflows, I guess. But yeah, Premiere is like super deep, and I don't know like half the stuff on it, but I will learn it as I need to.
But it's interesting to me, and I said this to you, I think after the first video, I was like, yeah, after this one, it'll get much easier, much faster.
Yeah.
And you were like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you're going to get more comfortable with the software. Like, you have the templates now. And I think you turned this one around much faster.
Yeah, I did it today.
Yeah, you did it today. And like, the only errors were like things really, like the big error was that we gave you the wrong, we picked the wrong Instagram cut to use, which is a pain in the ass for you because now you have to go fix our fuck up. But then just a couple typos, and then the one thing that is different is the gonna versus gonna.
Yeah.
Which is simply just a language, or I should say nationality barrier in how we both write those two same words, you know?
Yes.
But aside from that, it's like, okay, well, that's it. And like, you crushed it. And we're getting to a point with that project where not only are we going to have more content to push out that we definitely want to keep working with you on, but we're going to keep growing. We're going to keep bringing in revenue, and we're going to have a need to bring someone on. And, you know, Finn and I have already talked about the fact that, like, you would be a great first hire, you know. And you and I have had the same conversation when it comes to GGD. You know, like, we're going to need certain things when it comes to GGD as we get rolling with new products and rolling new things out. I've always extended the invite to you. If you're ever interested, we can definitely give you work, and we can definitely pay you for your time when when the time is right. So as long as you're open to those things, it's great. My question for you is this. This is something that I've been pondering, and I want you to be honest about it, because I don't know. I don't know where you stand.
It's like you're
on
going to
this.
say, like, I'm going to give you $1 million if you...
No, I want to know what your overall big picture goal is right now, because the work that that we are sending you is not necessarily part of the original dream of being a musician, playing in a band, touring in a band, so on and so forth. So what itch does this stuff scratch? And are you actually interested in doing this kind of work for now in order to get to whatever the next point is? But like, what is it attractive for you, or is it still just kind of like, all right, it's part of the long game?
No to this. It's no to the second point. It is attractive to me.
Okay.
If it was so take this video editing thing. If it was some accounting firm that wanted to make videos about accounting, I wouldn't do it. But the punk rock MBA is something that I've started using. Like, I looked at your course last night a bit, and I'm really looking forward to properly getting into that, because that's going to benefit me and my business. It's a project I believe in, and it's something that I'm going to get benefits from, and it's something other people are going to get benefits from that I think is important. So to work on that is great. Same thing with this podcast. It's something that I really believe in. It's something that's helped me. It's something I've shown other people and it's helped them. So to be a part of that is a privilege. And as I said before, it's great experience. It's like I've never really, when I've worked, it's always been by myself on my own stuff. So like working with people who need stuff done by deadlines, who have expectations of me, has been really beneficial to me for many reasons. It's been great for my work ethic, because instead of it's easy for me if I'm working on stuff just for me to procrastinate, but when I know someone's depending on me, I'm gonna not do that and get the work done because I don't want to let them down. And I've seen the benefits of putting that extra work in, so now I want to try and start applying that to my own projects for myself.
Got it.
So Joe, I identify with that response, and I've found the same experience of putting in effort and contributions to other projects, and how that's had a positive impact on my own businesses, where it's kind of just me in my own silo. Also, I'm going to speak for the three of us and say that your response was very touching, and we appreciate that. I'm curious, can you think of maybe one way for both Punk Rock MBA and also Chocolate Croissants? What's one way for each that those projects have been helpful for you personally?
Okay, I'll start with the podcast. It's hard to really narrow it down to one way, because I told this to Matt before, like, when you've had chefs on in the past, I've seen the guests and I've thought, okay, I don't really see how this is going to be interesting to me. And then I'll listen to it, and it's got all this cool shit in that I'd never thought of, or stuff that I can apply to my business or general lifestyle, and I come away feeling inspired and pumped up, and like I want to wake up the next day and get shit done. That's the main way this podcast has helped me. It's like a weekly injection of inspiration, which is awesome. And I've showed it to people who have said the same thing. So, but with the Punk Rock MBA, it's a similar thing. The thing I like about Finn and Matt is they don't sugarcoat things with the way you put it across, and I think that's kind of like, it's punk rock. Like, you don't really give a shit. I mean, you do, but you don't really give a shit what we're like feeling about it. It's like, this is the truth. It's up to you to kind of take it and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that really cuts through any sort of I don't know what the word is I'm thinking of, but it's direct and it's inspirational in itself. And with the Punk Rock MBA, there's a ton of stuff on there. I mean, the first what am I thinking? My brain's gone blank. The first time I heard of it was when I was asking Matt about sponsored ads on Facebook. And you were like, check out this article on the Punk Rock MBA, and you sent me it, and I read through it, and I was like, okay, that all makes sense, so I'm going to go do that. And then that advert got me a bunch of clients. So, I mean, it's just proof that it's working.
That's cool. I didn't know you did that. I didn't know you actually took it and ran ads on Facebook with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
What kind of ads were you running? What kind of specifically, what kind of work were you hoping to get?
So that was at a point where I hadn't had a single paying client. So it was an ad basically putting out this crazy deal to get a whole EP recorded, mixed and mastered for like £150, which hurt me to do, kind of, because it was a lot of work for not much money, but it got my studio off the ground, and it's brought return customers and new clients in because I've managed to build a portfolio from it.
So while we're there, I think this is a good segue to a few questions that we got in the Facebook group for you, Joe.
Yeah.
Kind of speaking about your business in particular. So for those listening, facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. So the first is from Matt Fisher. So Joe, what kinds of bands or artists do you most commonly engineer for? And do you have a favorite style or genre of music to engineer for in particular?
Yes. So I because I'm so early in my career still, I take anyone who comes to me, really. So at the moment, I'm working on like this rap metal band.
Limp Bizkit?
It's not Limp Bizkit.
I'm making this really big push for Limp Bizkit in this group.
I've noticed.
Are you in support of that?
Sure.
It doesn't make you think, why the hell do I spend all these hours a week working on this project?
No.
Okay, I'll take it.
So yeah, rap metal, like really good, kind of like progressive rock, I guess. And I'm working on like this singer-songwriter country thing, and this like goth band just got in touch with me, so I'll be working on that. So kind of anything and everything, which is good for me because it's pushing the boundaries of what I've done before. So I'm learning something super new with each project. What was the second part of that question?
It's really, do you have a favorite genre? So I guess if you could work with any type of band, what would that band sound like?
Anything that brings something new to the table, I think. Whether that's something just new to me that I haven't really heard before, or something that I think's new to that kind of sound, I really enjoy working on and get really excited about.
Well, Joe, I'll speak to your flexibility as an artist. So you wrote and produced the theme music to Chocolate Croissants.
Yeah.
And he wrote original hardcore music for the background of all of the punk rock NBA videos he's now worked on.
Oh, is that right?
Hey now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And I guess my point with sharing this is that I know in earlier episodes I laid out some sort of sketch vision for what I was looking for in music, and you took it upon yourself to just put something together and share it. And what you first presented to me was definitely not what I was looking for. And I kind of felt bad, like, being like, you know what, like, this sucks, man. But, like, I had to be truthful. And
I knew that wasn't what you wanted.
Okay.
I started writing it, trying to go for what you wanted, and then it just went a different way, and I was like, well, this probably isn't what he wants, but I'm just going to send it to him.
And were you working on our individual episodes at this point, or was that really our first communication?
I was, but I don't think I'd actually spoken to you before.
Right, because I didn't really know who you were. Maybe I kind of knew the name just from the Facebook group in different threads. But when you sent me that first draft, I was like, fuck, there's no way this dude's ever going to get anywhere close to what I have in mind. And I kind of wrote you off, to be honest. And then after a couple revisions, you got it. And I was so impressed that the style had changed so dramatically. But my point is that you're flexible as an artist and as a creator. And after that, I was like, damn, Joe really can handle a lot, whether it's another music project or, like, for Matt, working on more of this video stuff, because you just seem, like I said before, just very flexible.
Yeah. I think the problem was you guys were like, oh, yeah, like romantic Las Vegas music, and I didn't have a fucking clue what that meant.
Okay, so it wasn't. I had this romanticized like idea of a style of music that I heard in Las Vegas.
Like lobby music.
It wasn't
at 6 in the
actual.
morning.
It wasn't like romantic music per se.
No,
Got
but
it.
that still meant nothing to me.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Did the music come about before or after you and I had some kind of conversation? I was sitting in class in chemistry, I remember, and you and I were having some kind of conversation about Steve Gatt and Pino Palladino and how I think that's what Jordan was going for.
I'd forgotten that.
I'm trying to remember
After-
if you made the intro before or after we both said that, and we both had this idea of like, you know, 2 cycles and then this like fade out kind of idea.
No, I actually think that was before we had that conversation, because I kind of came to you and was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck he means.
Right. And we try to
Romantic Las Vegas.
we try to
music.
find clarity in whatever the fuck Jordan was saying.
Yeah, but we got there.
Yeah, of course.
I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it's cool that now I've heard it enough times as I'm listening through. You know, I don't listen through every episode, but I at least listen through the transitions just to make sure everything's there and it's clean. And when I hear it now, it's been enough times where it takes on the identity of what Chocolate Croissants means to me, and it kind of gets me pumped for the episode to start really digging deep with the guest. So it's,
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's been really effective, and
It sets the tone.
it sets the tone, and it's added a ton of value, I think, obviously to but I think a lot of people's experiences of these episodes every week. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's cool to hear it. I still like it. I think it sounds good.
Do you want to ask that? Then I have a slight different direction I want to go.
Yep. So our dude Adam Yanzi has 2 questions for you, Joe, but he prefaces it with a yes and 4 exclamation points.
I love that guy.
So, Joe, when you work with bands or artists in your studio, have you encountered any obstacles when communicating with them? Let's just start with that one.
Not like literally communicating with someone, but I think I've had but moments where I think it would be cool to do something one way or take the song one way, and then the artist has had a contradicting idea to that. That's really been the most difficult communication I've encountered.
So that leads to, not to cut you off, but it leads to the second question of Adam's. Do you push the musicians when tracking and try to get them to record better or tighter takes? Or do you leave all of that to the musicians? And that kind of goes to even the actual production and creativity and songwriting.
I think that's part of a music producer's job, is to push the musicians and get the very best that they can out of them. I think that's one of the reasons people come to a studio, is to get out of their bedrooms or the practice space and get to a place where the only thing they're focusing on is getting the very, 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 very best performance they can. So I take that responsibility on when a band comes to me to try and push them and create something better than they thought they were going to. It's hard. There's a fine line between doing that constructively, and then it can very quickly become awkward or a very negative thing, because understandably the more someone does something, the more frustrating it gets. So it's important to mix that up with humor, coffee breaks, cigarette breaks. I don't smoke, but like every person who comes to my studio does. So I'm like, go have a cigarette, chill out for like 5 minutes and come back in and we'll do it fresh. And 9 times out of 10, that sorts it. If not, I'm like, check out this stupid YouTube video I saw. And then that normally sorts it.
So you see
yeah.
yourself as much of a producer as you are an engineer.
Yeah, so engineering, for those that don't know, is the literal recording, setting up mics, tracking into software or on tape, which I don't do because that scares me. the literal recording stage, and then like a song producer is literally someone who works on the song, so it's kind of got blurred recently, and people consider a producer someone who records, mixes, and masters songs. What was the question?
Well, I guess the way that you self-identify, or how do you promote your services? Is it as the producer / engineer role?
Yeah, so it's like Prism recordings, I can produce, record, and mix, master your song. That's kind of what I sell.
Right. A one-stop shop.
Right. It's a one-stop shop for any artist or band that wants to record their music
and
have it produced.
And a lot of, the three of us definitely grew up, I think, with working for the most part where you had to kind of piece out each part. You'd have to go somewhere and have it recorded, and maybe you worked with someone who would help you with fleshing out these songs and getting them where you want it to be, so the production side. But then we would normally have to send our stuff somewhere else for mixing and potentially somewhere else for mastering.
Yeah, it varied. Well, now everybody
does it now. Like everyone seems to be the jack of all trades, be able to do all of it.
Well, there's so many tools out there now for people to take advantage of, and educational opportunities out there. Nail the Mix is one, obviously, that I know you're a member of, that Finn works on, and that's been a huge one, I think, because it teaches people all aspects of the recording process.
It's blown the whole game wide open, Nail the Mix, honestly.
Right.
It's changed the landscape 100%.
Okay, so I want to ask, one, why do you say that? And then two, I want to talk about your involvement in so many different forums and groups. Because I see you post in Nail the Mix, in the URM Academy. I see you posting things in the Punk Rock MBA. I see you posting things in the Chocolate Croissants group. So first I want to know why you think, in particular, Nail the Mix blew everything up. And then I want to talk about your view on networking and how that has been beneficial for you and how you see that happening. Like, do you feel like you met more people in real life and then moved to the online forums, or vice versa? So, I mean, again, it's two separate questions, but I'm curious to know, one, let's start with the Nail the Mix thing.
Right.
What's your thought on that?
It's given, well, it's kind of the Spotify or iTunes of education about modern rock, metal, even country audio production. It's given people instant access to a bank of lessons, resources, and even they've got a portfolio builder now. So like they've acquired the license to a certain number of tracks where they give you the raw stems and you can go and mix them and then use them in your own portfolio. So that would have saved me having to potentially do that whole 150 quid EP thing to get portfolio. That could have been, it's taken away steps basically.
Right.
And it's given people, it means people don't have to approach people and ask for lessons because other people have organized lectures with world famous producers that people can now instantly access online. That's why I think it's like, it's the same thing as computers have changed the game because now everyone can have a studio in their bedroom. Everyone now has like university quality lectures on their computer in their bedroom.
Right.
Does it feel, just because I'm not a user of it and I don't really follow that world that much, but does it feel similar to TED Talks?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what they do is each month, this is just one of the things they do. They've got loads of different services. This isn't a paid ad, although if you want to swing some money my way, you know. So each month they release the unmixed stems for songs. So like this month's is Bring Me the Horizon. So that's like a huge band.
And explain a stem so everybody knows who doesn't know what a stem is.
Okay, stem is the individual track recorded from a microphone. So if you record a drum kit, you're going to have, on average, 13, 14 stems for the drum kit. So you got 2 kick mics, 2 mics on the snare. So that's 4 stems. So a stem is the track recorded from one microphone.
Right.
As it were. So this month they've got the unmixed stems for a Bring Me the Horizon track, which they release to you. You download them, you mix them, and then you submit them to a contest. And then at the end of each month, the person who mixed the original song, so this month it's Dan Lancaster, he does basically an online lecture where he sits at his computer in the studio and mixes the song from scratch, and you can watch the whole thing. And then they have like questions, opportunities for questions like situated through the episode for people to ask questions, basically.
Yeah. It's an awesome platform, and they're working with good people, and they have a great team behind them. And you know, again, through networking, there's probably an opportunity somewhere if it ever arises for you to get more involved with them now because of your relationship that you're building with Finn.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is the director of marketing for Nail the Mix and URM. So that was what I was going to say. What's interesting to me is, as an introvert, you have managed to build relationships with a lot of people in the music world and in this sort of new age education world, right?
Yeah.
To what do you attribute that? And that's, I guess, what I was asking. Do you feel like you've been able to do that just through being involved in conversations online, or has it happened because of, do you think, as an example, you putting yourself out there at a young age to come and meet me and have that lesson and just simply be yourself and make a good impression? What have you found has been the most useful? Because I'm asking you this because I think our listeners can benefit from your answer here, because networking seems to be this gigantic, scary behemoth of a thing that people are afraid to do. But yet, with what I see you doing, not only are you networking successfully and everybody in these forums is familiar with you, but you're actually getting work from it now. So what are you doing? What do you think it is, if you had to analyze that?
Well, the first thing is I don't use these forums because I want to get something from it.
Right.
Well, that's not true. I use the forums because I want to gain the knowledge and the wealth of information that is shared on the forums. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to get work. Almost all of the opportunities that have come to me through music has been started online. I mean, even with you, Matt, the first thing I did was message you on Facebook, right?
Yep.
I think if you're gonna go that route, there's one thing which is vital, and that is, how do I word this? Being very careful not to overstep a line with that person. And it's something I think I've screwed up a couple times, but so far it hasn't backfired. You have to be very wary of not freaking out or annoying the person you're contacting. So you've got to not come across as that person who's just trying to get something from that person, or the weird fan guy who's just like trying to get in contact with someone they admire. And I mean, you can do that a couple of different ways. You can, I mean, the context of why you message them is important in the first place. So, and what you put in the message is important. You've got to be respectful and not weird, bluntly. And the frequency at which you message them is also important. So, if they don't, so like, say you're just messaging someone out of the blue. You don't want to be, well, what I would say is, hey, I'm a big fan of your work. I've been following it for a while. I just want to say, if you ever need help with this, I'd be super up for helping you out. If you ever need that, let me know. And I think that's a good balance of showing your appreciation for their work without being weird, and then just putting yourself in a position where they know where to come to find you if they need something. And if they don't reply, leave it for 4 months, like that long, before hitting them up again. I think you've got to play the long game, really. I think. You just got to be respectful and put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, how many times have you been in a correspondence with someone like Nolly, and it takes him a long time to get back to you, but he eventually does. He eventually does.
Of course. I mean, you've got to be respectful of their time. You've got to think, how many things is this person juggling? Like, some guy messaging him is probably going to be pretty low on their list of to-do. So you just have to be able to be patient and even forget about it and focus on something else. Just be satisfied that you've sort of thrown the bait, as it were.
Yeah.
And then just leave it.
What I also think is really helpful, Joe, about the advice you shared with everyone is that you were specific in the way in which you could add value to the person you're contacting. And not just saying, hey, if you ever need help, let me know, I'd be interested in. But I think the more specific you can get, and obviously you would ideally do some homework beforehand and have an educated guess as to where they could use some help.
Yeah, you've got to know why you're contacting them.
Well, some people just want access. Some people just want the relationship, and they're willing to do, quote, anything.
Yeah, and I think that's the wrong way to put yourself across.
100%. So I guess my point is you seem to have a very reasoned, measured approach, and obviously there's a reason why you've had so much success networking.
Yeah, well, I think the other point to add on is you've got to put your, like, I'm not going to contact Nolly and be like, hey man, if you ever need help mixing something, hit me up. I'd be like, hey dude, if you ever need help like editing some tracks or something because you haven't got time, like, I'm around, I'll fit it in. If you ever need like someone to just do some work, like, hit me up.
Yeah. And it's worked.
Yeah, so far.
So far, yeah. I also remember times when you and I have been in person together, and like when we've been to Middle Farm Studios and you joined us for some of the sessions we were doing. You know, at first, I remember it was like the first time you were meeting Misha in person. And you were kind of like, what's he like? You know, should I act a certain way? What should I expect? And I think you taking the road of simply just being yourself, being self-aware, being aware of what was happening in the room, being aware of what your role is, but then also at the same time being yourself. That was like the perfect ticket. That was like the perfect thing, because, you know, there were plenty of times during that session where you were totally being yourself and everybody was laughing. Not at you, I'm saying laughing because of what you contributed to the conversation in a positive way. You were gaining respect. You were making friends in the process. So it's this combination of being who you are, but as you said, being very careful also not to overstep, being self-aware, and knowing your role in that situation. So that's you've mastered that, I think, maybe just from the experiences that you've had so far. But at this point, I think you've mastered it enough to be able to share that with other people and explain what can help them to have similar experiences maybe that you have if given the opportunity. You know, because I think now you've gained a friend in Misha, you've gained a friend in Nolly, in me, in these two guys, in Finn, and countless other people that I know that you've met now through just this whole community. And you wouldn't do that if you weren't being anybody but yourself.
Yes. Yeah. It's a mixture of, as you say, being yourself and being respectful of the environment, I think.
Yeah.
I actually have a question about this. So the all these new relationships that you start to form because of the way you position yourself, whether it's in the groups or the way you're advertising your services, all of that together, that part of being in the group, messaging people, advertising online, all happens where you don't have to make the human interaction. But I want to bring up our relationship because it's funny that a lot of times I'll try to call you through Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh man, we could hash this out so much faster. We just hop on a quick call versus typing back and forth. Do you still get anxiety, and are you still very self-conscious of yourself when you're not sure what to expect about maybe a newer relationship that has started, business or otherwise, friendships? Is it something where you're like, oh, hey man, I can't hop on? Because I tried, maybe 3 or 4 times where it's like, let's hop on one, until we finally got on one to hash out a few things the other morning. And not that you were dodging, but you'd always have, oh no, I can't for whatever reason. Is that something that you use almost to safeguard yourself because you're not sure what to expect? Or are you feeling more comfortable of pulling yourself out from maybe behind the keyboard for a lot of these newer relationships that you're forming?
I fucking hate voice calls.
Do you prefer video? Because I love video. I don't care for voice as much.
Sure.
But it's all better than typing for me. I'll say that.
Right. I agree.
It's not because I don't like it. It's because they freak me out. With someone new. So if Matt called me, I'd be fine with it because we've talked countless times. But when you called me, I was freaked out. But the same as starting this podcast, as soon as I clicked accept, I was fine.
Right.
I mean, I'll get it where I get a number I don't recognize on my phone and I won't fucking pick it up because I'm like,
I don't do that either. Don't worry. Yeah.
I actually dealt with not severe, but I dealt with a pretty unhealthy amount of anxiety in college, maybe about 8 years to a decade ago or so. And because I had started to associate and kind of go in like a different direction with the group of people I was hanging out with, and I was just like, it wasn't healthy or conducive to anything that was considered healthy. And so when I would get phone numbers from people I didn't know, it would just turn on this overproduction of anxiety, and I would just be like, oh man, I hope they leave a voicemail. I don't want to text them. So I totally hear that. But the more often, you just, someone rings the doorbell and you just answer the door instead of thinking who's coming to get me or something crazy, driving anxiety towards it, or someone calls and you just pick up the phone and not worry about it. I'll attest to it. The easier it all gets, where it's like, what is wrong with us? Why do we always fall off, the deep end of this one? So I'm glad you opened. I'm glad you opened the door. Or I'm glad you answered the phone finally when I was like, hey, let's just hop on a phone call. Matt's over here saying, I don't think so. I'm gonna keep letting it go to voicemail.
I mean, if someone calling me wants to talk and it's important, they'll leave me a voicemail or they'll text me what it is and I'll call them back if I don't know the number.
Of course.
If someone rings my doorbell and I'm not expecting anyone, I'm not fucking opening the door.
I'll actually attest to that right now because a friend of mine, a contemporary at school, answered the phone on a phone number, I think this past week, that she didn't know who it was and was caught very off guard as a pre-interview to a potential big interview, and had to answer 3 questions and all this other stuff. And I would have advised, as what I've found through parsing through a bunch of information, of during this 2-month process where you might get these unknown numbers from these directors of these programs, let everything go to voicemail so you can screen it, and then you'll know what's coming. You can like lay out all of your material, and you can
you're ready to go.
Right, you can get into like a very healthy place, get a tea or a coffee, a water. You can sit down and feel like, okay, I'm ready for this. Whereas my friend was very much like flabbergasted and was like, oh shit. So maybe there is a reason, of course, at times to let it go to voicemail.
I will say, before calls, I do like having that prep. Like, I like having earbuds in so both my hands can be free, whether it's for a drink or to take notes and things like that. It's gotten better, but with Justin, when he would call me, I would get that same crippling anxiety when I'd see that Justin was calling me, because I was expecting like a 30-minute waste of my time.
I don't answer doors because I keep hearing about these home invasions, man.
Oh no.
There was a home invasion in Kingsville
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Right.
These guys knocked on a nice and affluent neighborhood. They knocked on a door. The dad answered. He was like in his 60s. His son was home. He was in his early 20s. These two guys were dressed as police officers.
Oh no.
They pushed themselves in, tied him up, and ransacked the house.
You need that Nas-backed doorbell.
You need Ring or Nest. Yeah, one of
Right.
those two.
Or move to the UK with Joe, where there are no bad guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We've heard of that.
Well, I think it's due to a lack of something else, but
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. We're not going to get into that topic right now. But yes, I got you. I got you on that.
So to the listeners who can't see, and to even Joe who can't see because Matt did it off the Skype camera, Matt just gave us the "let's take this shit home" signal.
right.
Because you're boring us terribly, Joe.
Yeah.
Because Jordan
Fine.
just told me that he dreads my phone calls.
Yeah. No. As soon as that shit starts happening,
That's when we know it's time
just downhill.
to just, go to sleep.
Yeah, it's downhill from here. But no, Joe, it's been really nice to have you on. I think a lot of our listeners will resonate with you and what you have to say, because they've seen you, at least in the Facebook group, they've seen you interacting quite often. And I think that they'll feel much more connected to you. They'll know who you are a lot better. And I think they'll probably, well, if they don't, they should be willing to reach out to you with other questions or
Please.
whatever. Yeah.
Please, yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't got questions, just want to chat. I'm lonely. Just hit me up.
Especially about running, right?
He's the most...
You'd love to make some, maybe... No, come on. What about some new... If you're in what area are you in again?
Keynsham.
Okay, so if you're in that area or anywhere close, Joe would love some running company.
I would not run with you.
Come on.
No. I run with my fiance Nat, and that's it.
Okay.
You're the loneliest engaged human being in the world.
Thank God for the
Okay,
internet.
wait, one more. Here's the last thing that's really cool.
All right, rapid fire questions by Matt.
Here's the last thing that's really cool. So Joe is a very good drummer, and his fiance is a very good drummer, and they met at school playing drums.
Can you post? Are there videos?
That's awesome. That's
that is
pretty
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, we are in the same class.
Drum class?
We gonna do that?
Jordan's never been anywhere. It's okay.
Class.
There you go. Yeah, you guys were in drum class together, and
What were they in?
Man, words are
Class.
weird.
Yeah, words are weird. Do you have any video footage of the two of you playing drums together? Drum off?
No. No.
Are there any?
She's got some drum covers up there. I'll
Do
post that.
you guys jam or write or perform ever together?
Sometimes one of my aims for 2018 is to like write music with her and play live with her, because that would be fun.
Do you know the bass player Yannick Wisdala?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna link you to him. But he's a great bass player, a Berkeley guy who also has a girlfriend who is a great bass player and tours and whatnot. They do he does a vlog, what seems like almost every day, and a lot of them, she's there and they play together. They just practice and just hang out and chat about music and whatever else. I could see you guys doing that.
yeah, Benny Greb has a percussionist girlfriend now. Pretty sure.
That's cool.
And Mark Juliana is married to
Who?
Mark Juliana is a really, really great drummer. God, I can't think of his wife right now, but she's a Bridge. I'll look it up. Anyway, Ingrid Michaelson.
Jordan, you got any?
Yeah.
Derek Trucks and
Derek Jeter.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Gretchen Parletto, not Ingrid Michaelson.
not even close.
I'm wrong. Gretchen Parletto.
All right. On that note.
All right. So Joe, take us home.
Take us home, Joe. You've heard 48 of these.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, shit. I was thinking about this earlier if you guys were going to ask me this, and I had it in my head. Okay, wait. Hang on.
I almost made you do the intro the other day.
Yeah. So, this episode is sponsored by Nada Tattoo, the premium all homemade?
All natural.
All vegan.
All vegan. Organic tattoo care company. We met her, the company, at the...
Expo East?
Expo East, and we hit it off, and Matt uses their products to make his tattoos shiny. So does Jordan and Justin.
That is correct.
So there's a contest in the Facebook group where you could win some shit.
Where did you get to that Facebook group, Joe?
Facebook.com/group/chocolate croissants. Also, thanks to Rode Mike, that's RODE Mike.com.
No, it's
socials.
not. Is it?
Road.com.
There we go.
Rode Mike on their socials?
Yeah.
Show us the mic.
What?
Show us the mic.
What mic are you using?
The Rode NT USB microphone. Plug it straight into your computer via a USB cable. No hassle, no interface, no shit. Do it. What else? Go onto your podcast app of choice, rate 5 stars, leave a review. It really helps us out.
Do we know why it helps us out, though?
No,
none of us do.
No one knows anything on this podcast. We don't know shit about anything.
We've got a YouTube channel. We haven't got a URL yet, but subscribe.
You think you need 1,000 subscribers, so help.
1,000
Subscribe,
subscribers.
please.
Here's
First
one.
episode's up.
Here's a new one for this week.
Bless you.
Okay. And I'm gonna just take it over here, but that was fantastic.
No. You're gonna finish it.
Okay,
But-
yeah, you're gonna finish it. You're gonna beat Jordan at the end. But here,
Right.
one more thing that's new this week. Well, past couple weeks is our new website is up and running. And
Yes.
if you want to, and I'm not saying this to you directly, Joe. I'm saying this to our listeners. If you want to support the Chocolate Croissants podcast financially, because it helps us to do cool things, you can go on to chocolatecroissants.com and you can buy us a coffee. You can buy us a croissant. You can buy us a coffee or a croissant. I believe in order it's $3, $5, or the combo is $7.
Right.
And you can leave a tip of any amount that will be sent to the Chocolate Croissant Podcast PayPal, which we will then use to fund new things within the business of Chocolate Croissants Podcast.
What are some things that you would love to see happen?
We're talking about releasing some merch, so we're going to produce that. We're talking about being able to buy some prizes and provide prizes for people for new contests. We are talking about upgrading our gear so that we can provide better video quality. Lots of different things. Maybe send some croissants to people all over the world.
That would be awesome.
That'd be
I
cool.
do want to publicly thank, because we haven't promoted this feature yet on the new website. By the way, some of the money was spent getting some new design for the website and just general branding of Chocolate Croissants. But I was kind of freaking out at the Ring of Honor office a couple days ago because I got an email from PayPal and I was like, oh my God, Miles Davis just sent me some money. But apparently there is a Miles Davies in the UK who did donate to us. So Miles, if you are listening, thank you very much. You will always be our first.
Can we pin that on a wall?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. And with
Okay,
that,
with
take
that,
it back.
take us out, Joe.
What? Where from?
What is
So
Jordan?
this is where you say that episode 50 is next week and we don't know who's going to be our guest.
we do.
But I guess
do
we
we?
do this time.
We
Yeah.
do this time.
Yeah. So okay, who's our guest? Justin.
I just drew a complete blank.
She is a
we're having on a dietitian who works with Mike Dolce and the Dolce Diet. She's actually the head dietitian at the company.
Fuck yeah.
And most notably, the Dolce Diet, or Mike Dolce, is known for working with Ronda Rousey.
There you go.
WWE superstar Ronda Rousey.
WWE superstar Ronda Rousey.
Dude, that was the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my life.
It was.
It was Ronda.
Maybe she'll get there. Maybe she'll
Very,
get there.
very awkward. I didn't see it. Okay, so Joe, now it's your job to just simply take us out with Jordan's typical ending.
If you have anything else left to say it.
Where can people follow you online?
Prism Recordings UK.com/groups/chocolate croissants. I don't know. I do have a website, prismrecordings.uk.com, facebook.com/Prism Recordings UK. Just fucking add me, Joe Hamilton. We'll chat.
Yeah, you're Joe John Hamilton on Instagram.
Correct. And
Okay.
Prism Recordings UK on Instagram.
And Prism, PRISM.
Yep.
Not prison, PRISON.
Recording or recordings?
Good question. Pretty sure it's singular.
Okay. We'll post all these things.
Yeah, we'll post it
Man,
up.
Joe's got his shit together. And if anyone's listening and is interested in some romantic Las Vegas music to be produced for you,
Joe's your man.
all right, take it
I'm the
home, my
guy.
friend.
All right, guys. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure to rate us 5 stars. I've done that already. So I'll just, nothing else to say apart from... Bye-bye.